The Avalon from Nodus Watches is their first 300-meter dive watch. And what I like is they don't shy away from the fact that they have echoed other brands, specifically Doxa, Eterna, and Seiko, with this very retro cushion case shape. All CNC machined. They spent the better part of 2 years working on this, and after 2 years, you hope that you created a watch that you can be proud of. I know Wes and his partner from Nodus Watches are very, very proud of this watch, and they should be. It's a great looking watch, and it comes in at $625 with the stainless bezel, or $650 with the ceramic. The Avalon is 43.5 millimeters thick with a 42 millimeter bezel, 12.9 millimeters thick, which is actually on the thin side when you're talking about a 300 meter dive watch. 48 millimeter lug to lug with 20 millimeter lug width. So this isn't necessarily a giant watch, but I think the proportions are great, and it's not going too small like some of the watches that are going down to 38 millimeters these days, which for me, I'm just not a fan of. This is a very good sweet spot, at least for me. Miyota 9039 automatic movement, we'll talk about that here in a second. And as I said, it starts at $625 or $650 for the ceramic bezel. There's going to be other colors. There's an orange dial, there's a black dial, a blue dial, and a green dial, and all have the choice of the steel or ceramic bezel. Let's go ahead and take a look at that case that I'm talking about, and you can see how thin it is. And then you also have that very prominent, very grippy bezel, which is all sandblasted. Show you a close-up here of that in a second. Let's go ahead and take a close-up look. As you can see, the dial is extremely, extremely clean here. 3-line dial. And really just that little pop of color with that peachy orange Avalon, as you could see written there on the dial. And then you could see that matching it in that Seiko style second hand. When you take a closer look here at the dial, you could see it is an ever so slightly textured dial. And it, to me, is somewhere between crisp white and cream. It's not exactly a very, very stark white, but it's not exactly a cream colored dial either. Obviously, these are applied markers. Go ahead here, give you a look at that 6.5 millimeter thick crown. And here is that bezel I was talking about. And you're going to see a lot of different finishes here on this 300 meter dive watch from Nodus. And one of the nice features is the way that this case is not only cut and very brushed here, but then you have the high polish here on top. And you could see it is all brushed again on top. And then when you get into the bracelet, you're going to see that H-Link bracelet, which I'm always been a big fan of, is all brushed all the ways down to the clasp, but it is high polished on the sides. Here is that clasp. They went with definitely a more of a traditional style dive clasp, but you do have a lot of micro hole adjustments there as well. Of course, these are screws in the links, and they are single-sided screws, so no problem sizing at all. Go ahead here and rotate that bezel for you. You can see it's a nice, very easy to turn, not too firm, not too tight, but it does stay exactly where you put it, which is what you want. Let me go ahead and give you a look at the Avalon case back here. You could see it's nothing fancy, but you do have that sword, and there is a reason about that sword, or a reason for that sword, I should say. That is the Excalibur sword, and I'll get into that on the blog post, so check out www.watchreport.com. I'll have the link directly to this review in the description to explain why there's a laser-edged Excalibur sword on this Nodus Avalon. But you can take a look at that screw-down case back here. And one of the things that I really want to talk about here is why I like this watch so much. And I'm going to tell you up front right now, I really don't have a lot of issues with this watch. And as anybody here who knows or watches my reviews knows, I usually will, pick apart anything about a watch. And I got to say, maybe the only thing I really would have wished for here was drilled lugs, although I probably won't take this H-Link bracelet off too much when wearing the Avalon. I will say the watch is a little heavier than I expected to, but it's just a solid watch. The head itself is 83 grams. The entire thing with all the links in the bracelet is 192 grams. So basically, you're looking at a 200-gram watch for a 43 millimeter case with 20 millimeter lugs. But the watch just has a heft to it. Yet it's weird. It's very, very, very balanced on the wrist. Here is the Avalon on my 7.5-inch wrist. This is unsized. It'll easily fit up to an 8.5-inch wrist out of the box. So I hit this with the flashlight for about 5 seconds. This is the Avalon all charged up C3 X1 Lume. It is fantastic and it will last all night long. As I said, for me personally, there is a lot to like about this Avalon. Now, I'll get into a lot more info about Nodus and the company and this watch specifically in the full review. I'll have the link in the description below to watchreport.com. But I just want to mention a few things here in my summary. One, as I said, this is a completely CNC machined case. This is completely assembled in their shop in California, and this is using the Miyota 9039. Now, if you're not familiar with that Miyota 9039 automatic movement, it is very similar to the 9015, but it doesn't have a date, and the hands are set lower, which means you could fit it into a thinner case, hence why you have this 300-meter dive watch and a 12.9 millimeter thick case. So they really tried to work on that retro and vintage style watch, but give it some of their own design cues and flair. And they really tried to put a really nice, well-made, well-machined piece together. I think they did that. As I said, I really can't find a lot of fault with this watch. Everybody is so used to a lot of these part-time micro brands, and I think they're great for the consumer. I will always say that, where you can get, a lot of watch these days for $350, $400. But that's not going to be every brand, and Nodus is really working hard not only to make a great watch, but make a great brand and a great name for themselves. And I hope they continue. They're definitely well on their way. And this Avalon speaks volumes about what they're trying to do. Just a really nice, well-made dive watch. As I said, link in the description if you want to see more. You want to follow us on social media. It is at Watch Report. It is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram we are on. And you could follow Nodus watches there as well. And if you want to check out more about this right from Nodus, or you're interested in purchasing, I'll have that link down in the description as well. Has been a look at the Nodus Avalon. Thanks for looking, and I'll talk to you on the next one.